Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage, and welcome back to working on the drag truck. So as you would have seen there, we got the truck pulled out so we can work on the back end. We got some stuff to finish up that back there, but first we actually have our first win of the evening. So as you guys know, the truck still isn't quite running how it should. I've had a few people reach out to me, so like the videos have pretty much been just about every other day or so. So what I've been basically doing is work on this, work on the 24 valve, and then the next night try and work on this. So when I say that, like I said, we're gonna, whoa, I think we're zoomed way in there. No, we're not. Anyway, so thought the camera was zoomed in, but it wasn't. So anyhow, we've been having problems with this. We were supposed to have somebody come up and give us a hand with it, but there's been scheduling conflicts and all that kind of stuff. It is racing season and all that kind of stuff. You know, people in different parts of the country are actually able to use their race vehicles, and we need to get this thing to Cecil because Cecil is open. So anyway, I've been trying to do what I can to just figure out what's going on with it before we go to a little more drastic measures, which is probably how we're going to go. But I've had people reaching out, giving me ideas, specifically strictly Cummins and just a common rail 24 valve, well, or 24V on the Instagram. Those guys reached out to me and gave me a couple of ideas of things to check, and we checked them and to no avail. So that being said, we did discover something that I hadn't even thought about, and not that I would think that it would fix the truck, but it was definitely worth a shot and something that needed done, and that was the charging system. So the drag truck, I've been keeping it on a battery tender just because we've been starting it. It's only been running intermittently, you know, we run it for like a minute or whatever. So I was checking the voltage when it was running on something, and I realized this thing's still only sitting at 12 volts. So the alternator actually wasn't charging. So what's going on with this thing? You know, I don't know what, you know, did the alternator take a shit because it hadn't been running, you know, in like a year? It's been sitting around. Wasn't really sure, but I decided we could do a little investigative, you know, stuff. So I started Caitlin up and ran her. You know, she's charging, everything's going good, and I actually disconnected the alternator wire here on Caitlin, and if you check those two pins on the connector itself right in here, the one to the rearmost connector actually puts out like 3.8 volts when this thing's sitting at idle. So I pulled our connector on the race truck, checked it, and here our pin was 3.8 volts to the actually the pin toward the front. So we actually had to pull the connector apart, switch our pins, and everything is good to go. Everything is happy now and working the way it should. Now this is not a fault of Breakout Tuning Solutions, who our harness is from. This is actually my fault. So we had a little problem with our harness because on the truck with our injection pump set up here, we actually had to take our computer and we had to take it from mounted like this to like this. So that made some of our connectors a little further to reach than others, one being the alternator. So since we turned the ECM, we actually had to get an extension pigtail from Breakout so we could fix that. And also we had to switch our alternator out to a 6.7 style alternator, because most of the time when guys are getting these standalone harnesses, they're coming from like a 5.9 platform. Not most people aren't taking a 4th gen truck and doing this to it. There's only like 3 or 4 4th gens that I can think of that have, you know, some sort of standalone setup. I'm sure there's more out there than that. Needless to say, I put the extension harness on here and I must have gotten my wires crossed and had them backwards. No big deal, we got it figured out, but we got a win for the evening. So what are we getting into tonight? Because that didn't fix our running issue, and we're not even going to focus on that tonight. So our main focus tonight is we're going to start by playing with our parachute again. So if you guys remember, we got our parachute mount in. Everything's looking good. Very happy with how that all went. And a lot of you guys, I had a lot of comments saying that this aluminum's going to bend like a pretzel with the parachute. Well, the thing is, guys, the parachute's not actually tied off to this piece of aluminum. That's just like the quick disconnect so we can remove the whole parachute assembly. The parachute actually gets tied off to this right here. I guess this is considered like your umbilical. So to mount our umbilical onto our new cross member, we actually got some tabs off the eBay. These are 1 5/8" tabs to fit real nice so we can get a good weld on there. And then I actually made an aluminum spacer so we can run a grade 8 half-inch bolt through there. Basically, our spacer will go between our two tabs like so, and we can actually put that thing, if I don't drop everything, we can actually mount that thing right here, and our parachute will be good to go. So that's our tie-off point for the parachute. No actual force is being put on this other than the wind, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for that piece of aluminum too. So we're going to start with that, get the parachute finished. Maybe we'll pull the truck out a little further and play with the parachute a little bit, see if we can fold this thing back up. We're also going to put fluid in the rear because, and I don't know that it'll be tonight, we need the corner scale of the truck so we can get our rear suspension dialed in. And to do that, we're going to have to take this thing on a little bit of a road trip. And when I say little, I mean like 10 minutes away. So we're going to get some fluid in there. Pulling it in and out of the garage, it's not a big deal with it not having fluid in there. But when we start, we're going to have to put the truck on the trailer and all that. It's not worth the risk. The reason it doesn't have fluid in it now is because eventually when we put the rear suspension on, we're going to have to weld on the axle, and I prefer it to be empty, no oil in it, and all that. So anyway, guys, we're going to get to finishing up our parachute. We'll throw some fluid in that rear diff and go from there. And I'm sure there's some stuff. I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff we need to do because I got a checklist. So let's get to it, and let's get to it. So our parachute is live. So got our mount done down here for the umbilical, if you will, just our spacer. Got that all welded up, looking good. Everything's how it's supposed to be. I did pull our pin because I got our cable installed. I just wanted to see how that would go. Now, to be honest, you can order these cables. I forget what the lengths come with. This Motion Raceworks kit, you can get various lengths, and I got what I thought I would need, and it might be a tad short. I just kind of have it zip tied in random spots. We're definitely going to have to either get a new cable or try and make this work, but we will have to make like permanent mounting for it. Like I said, I just have it zip tied, kind of like a proof of concept. I've never installed a parachute before. I don't know what I'm doing, but like the cable back here, we don't have anything to really kind of mount it closer to the parachute, and it kind of was floppy, but then once I actually added the spring pressure, everything was good, and it's nice and firm on the cable. So got that all ran, just a hole through the cab there. And on the inside, we actually added a tube up here, just spanning these two, so that way we have our handle right here. So when I'm sitting, I can just kind of take my hand off the steering wheel and smack it, and that should deploy our parachute. So that's looking good. I'm very happy with how that all turned out. Once again, it's just kind of zip tied to the cage, just trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing, where I want it. That's one nice thing about this Motion Raceworks kit is it has hose clamps, so that way you can hose clamp it to a piece of tube. So if we want to move it back, what have you, we can adjust it, and then if we're happy with it, we can weld it in, and it'll all be kind of locked in place. But that the kit for Motion Raceworks just gives you that adjustability. So I'm really curious to see how far this spring actually pushes it out. I honestly have no idea. Never done anything like this. So I want to see. So we're going to pull the truck up a ways so that way it hopefully doesn't take out my garage door opener. But we'll pull it out of the garage and launch the parachute and just see what that's all about and see if we can figure out how to pack this thing again. But yeah, so let's pull the truck out and see what she looks like. No headlights, kind of hard to see where you're going. All right, let's see what this is all about. Okay, so that was that. So the parachute is deployed. I guess when you're going 100 and some mile an hour, the wind will catch it and then kind of pull it all apart. But here in the driveway, it just went about, I don't know, 10 feet. But yeah, so our parachute works. Our cable didn't fly out when we came out of the garage with our sweet solid suspension setup. Let's see if I can pack this thing back up. So I got the chute packed back up. Really, it's pretty simple. I undid the whole thing just to kind of see what it's like. Obviously, it's easier because it didn't kind of fully deploy. But go to Shroud's website if you're interested, because they have a great video on how to do it. Better than I could do, especially since I'm still kind of figuring out. But basically, you just follow your rip cord here back. Make sure none of your lines are twisted. Then you grab the top line, back to the chute. That'll come to a point, you know, at the beginning of the chute, and then you take your two hands, grab the other two sides of the chute, and then there's a specific way you fold it, and then you kind of lay everything zigzag back on top of each other, so everything just kind of comes out and uncoils real quickly. So everything is back installed. I did have to cut the zip ties off of our cable here because it was too much without the tension of the spring on there. This thing just wanted to fall out because we were like over here and it was pulling back. So we'll have to, like I said, either get a different cable or figure out a good way to make this work. I mean, it's just a matter of how it's going to look and all that. So I might, what I'm going to do, I should say, is I'll figure out something temporary. We'll go with it and see that if I like it, and if I do and it kind of looks terrible, we'll just get a new cord and all that. But yeah, so we got the parachute done. The parachute is complete. That handle is real nice and easy. You know, if the my hands on the steering wheel here, which I know you guys can't see much, hands on the steering, and just come up and I can just whack that forward. And even with the spring tension on it, it wasn't hard to deploy. But yeah, basically what we saw here, it come out, the air will grab it and it'll slow us down. So we're going to proceed onward, and I don't know, we're going to back the truck up back toward the garage and figure out a game plan. Alright, so got a couple more things welded. I didn't realize how late it had gotten, so I got this other support bar back in for the fuel cell. So originally this just came straight across and we needed to cut it out for our fittings to fit on the fuel cell, our returns, and yeah, the returns. So that I got welded up, and also this one brake bracket that I had cut. I forget why I had cut it, probably something with the 4-link and all that. But got that all welded back in. Everything's good. We need to, you know, address our parachute cable a little bit. I think, you know, it's good. It's usable if we need it, but we're going to have to do something better, you know, later down the road. Something more permanent, something that's going to work and not be a hassle, and that looks fairly decent. So we just kind of working with what we got right now. If we had to go to the track tomorrow, we could make do. So anyway, we well, not we, but I definitely need to clean the garage up. It is more of a shit show than it normally is, but it's just how it goes. You guys know the garage is pretty much usually a mess, but whatever. So anyway, guys, we got some stuff done on the truck. Our parachute is operable. We got our handle installed and all that. We didn't get to the rear, but slapping that cover on, throwing some fluid in there, not really a big deal. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Please like the video down below. What do I usually say? Oh, and subscribe to the channel. Get out in your garage. Get the wrenching on your truck.